Hey everyone, welcome back to Bible Bits. We're in Genesis 9 today, and we're going to actually do quite a bit of reading today. We're going to go down the line, so to speak. For the last couple chapters, we've been hitting the bullet points, if you will, to kind of skip over some of the repeats and things like that that were common in ancient tales. But today we're going to do some reading, just kind of goes down the line to get what we can out of Genesis chapter 9, specifically the very first part of Genesis 9. Starting in verse 1, And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every bird of the heavens, upon everything that creeps on the ground, and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. And as I give you the green plants, I give you everything. But you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood. And for your lifeblood I will require a reckoning. From every beast I will require it, and from man. From his fellow man I will require a reckoning for the life of man. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. For God made man in his own image. And you, be fruitful and multiply, increase greatly on the earth, and multiply in it. A lot of that section of scripture probably sounds fairly familiar because God is basically restating a lot of the things that he told to Adam and Eve. God, of course, originally gave man a purpose in the garden. The purpose was to care for the world, but also to multiply and to go out and take over the land, basically. Now, we don't know what that would have looked like long term if Adam hadn't sinned and if life had gone on in the garden. We don't know what it would have looked like for Adam 100 years down the line. Would he have been building cities, or would they still be in the garden? We don't know. But we do know that whatever God intended, it was important enough that he didn't want it to just end because of mankind's own failure. God didn't revoke his command to mankind. God didn't reach the point of the flood and say, you know what, mankind can't be trusted with taking care of the earth, therefore I'm going to revoke it. Instead, when Noah and his family come out of the ark, he repeats to them the same command he gave Adam. Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. We tend to view the flood as a really, really bad thing. And make no mistake, I'm sure anyone who was not on the ark views the flood as a really bad thing. But really, in light of the grand plan of God's desire for the world, the flood was not an evil. It was a correction. God wasn't giving up. God was correcting the course of mankind. And so when mankind is basically starting over with Noah here, God doesn't say, all right, I'm giving you a new command, just try not to screw it up. He gives him the same command. Now, there are little bits of differences here. For instance, there seems to be the idea that the creatures of the world are not going to be friendly necessarily with mankind. Now, I don't know that necessarily they were friendly before the flood, but there seems to be this stated addition to the purpose, one that wasn't given to Adam. Perhaps we could say that when Adam was given his command, there was no need to fear the birds and the beasts and the creeping things of the earth. But rather now with this new command, it has to be mentioned that you're also going to have to fight nature. That was something Adam didn't seem to need to do. He would have had control over nature, certainly, tending to the garden. He names the animals, but he didn't necessarily have to fight nature. But now mankind is going to have to fight nature. And I think if we look around, we see that pretty plainly. We do, in fact, have to fight nature. Dogs may be fantastic, but you can't treat a wolf and a dog the same way. Your dog may be thrilled to see you. A wolf that sees you barge in on its den is going to react very differently. You're going to have to dominate nature in a different way now than we may have had to prior to the sin of mankind. But also, God says that he's going to give mankind the flesh of all creatures to eat. Now, we have no reason to think that mankind wasn't eating the flesh of creatures before this. For instance, in the story of Cain and Abel, Abel was a sheep herder or a cattle herder. We don't know necessarily what he was keeping, but presumably he was keeping animals to eat. I mean, maybe it was being kept for things like wool and milk, but more likely than not, they were also eating the animals. Here in farm country, I think folks understand how that works. It's very likely that this was not a new thing, but again, God has to give a correction to something. When Adam was created, he wasn't really intended to need to eat living things. He was supposed to be able to get his sustenance from the greens around him. And now things are screwed up. He's going to have to go in and probably make way by eating animals. There are going to be times where, if you're going on a long trip, you can only do so much when it comes to greens. You can't. You can only pack herbs and things like that so much before you have to look at it and say this probably isn't going to work. What you really need is some dried meat, something that'll last a long time. And looking back, things like war, things like building cities, these are very intensive tasks, and mankind needs, when we engage in intensive tasks, we need energy. We need something to feed us, and one of the best ways to do that is through meat. And one of the problems with the fall is that now man's going to have to basically take care of himself. So, there's going to have to be cities. There's going to have to be roads. There's going to have to be long journeys taken without the aid of animals. You're going to be in the wilderness by yourself at times. You're going to have to eat something. It's an imperfect solution. It's not the way it was intended to be, but the point has to be made. God didn't just stop. He didn't revoke his promise. He didn't say, that's it, we're done, we're doing something different. The command for mankind to be lords and ladies of the earth still remains. We're still supposed to be in charge. We're still supposed to be tending the planet, taking care of it, and, quite frankly, overcoming it. That doesn't mean that we should go out and seek to level a forest for the sake of showing how great we are over the planet. There is an intention of care behind it. We always have to keep in mind that though we are given this planet, we are, in a sense, regents in place of God. God is the one who really owns the planet. It's his planet. All the earth belongs to him. We are just taking care of it for him. We are just the ones who are there. In ancient times, they would have called it, barons of the land or something like that. Lords and ladies, a fiefdom. Basically, there would be the king, and the king was over everything. Whatever the land was, it was the king's. But within the land, the king couldn't go out and take care of every single piece of land. That was just too much to do. So you would have people throughout the land who would be in charge of areas, and that area might be really big. But then within that big area, there'd be smaller areas given to other people, and so on and so forth, down through the line. That's basically what mankind has been given. We've been given the task of taking care of the land in place of God. Not because God can't do it, but because he wants us to be his regents here, to take care of the earth for him, so that we can also know him better. That command doesn't go away with the flood. But did you notice also in verse 6 what was said? Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed, for God made man in his own image. The image of God did not go away in the garden. When Adam sinned, the image didn't vanish from him. I think we would agree it's been tarnished, it was damaged, something happened to it. We were made imperfect. The way that we were supposed to interact with God was certainly harmed. But mankind didn't lose the image of God when Adam sinned. We still have it. So important is that image still that God says if someone commits murder, they must have justice taken upon them. Why? Because they were made in the image of God. We tend to view the flood as the end. It's the end of the story for the ancient world. But it's really not. Things changed between Adam and Noah. The way mankind interacted with God changed. The way we have to go about our purpose changed. But the great plan, the great commission given to mankind, that never went anywhere. Moreover, the great gift given to mankind, the image of God, never went anywhere. It's still in all of us. This means we should take such great care with how we interact with each other. It can be tempting just to view people as other human beings, animals basically, no better than the rest of the world. Oh, they said something stupid to me. Oh, what are they doing over there? How could they do something so dumb? Why is it they've gone out of their way to hurt me? And we tend to start to look at them like animals, something we just want to get out of our way. We need to take this warning seriously that though the world is not perfect anymore, though the world is not as how it should be, it still retains God's purpose. It is still good. Moreover, we are still in God's image. And therefore, we are all still worthy of a certain degree of respect, not because of anything we've done, but because of what God has done. How we treat each other, how we treat this planet. That command, that burden doesn't go away with the flood. It changes, but it's still there. Ask yourself this week, how am I living up to God's command for mankind? Do I take care of what has been given to me? Do I go out of my way to make sure what I have been given, whether it be a small plot of land or a nice house or access to a certain amount of people to help them and befriend them, whatever you've been given, do you treat it as a duty to God to take care of the earth, to take care of this planet and the people therein who are made in the image of God? If the answer is no, then we need to take some time and figure out why that is. Because nothing changed on God's part. What changed in us? That's it for today. We'll see you guys in the next video, in the next Bible Bits. Easter Sunday's coming up here. If you're watching, I hope you'll be there with us on Sunday morning as we celebrate the resurrection of Christ. But if not, we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, everybody.